He opened the door to his luxury car, keys in hand, surrounded by his loyal men, the most feared family in the city. But a tiny voice stopped him cold. "Please, sir, look under your car." A 7-year-old girl, trembling in the shadows, had just risked everything to warn the Mafia boss. What she'd seen the police plant there that afternoon would shock the entire town, and expose a deadly conspiracy. The child's voice cut through the humid Charleston evening like a knife through silk. "Please, sir, look under your car." 7 years old, trembling against the restaurant's brick wall, she faced 5 men the entire city whispered about. The vital family, not bikers, not gang members, but something the neighborhood feared even more. Men in tailored suits who spoke softly and commanded absolute respect. Men who had run the waterfront for 3 generations. But Emma Rodriguez had seen something in the alley behind her mother's flower shop that afternoon. Something that made her small hands shake and her heart race. 2 police officers, Detective Marcus Hall and his partner, crouching beside a black Mercedes, their movements quick and secretive, planting something beneath the chassis. A setup, a frame, a lie wrapped in badges and authority. Now those 5 men were finishing their dinner at Vittorio's, completely unaware. And outside, unmarked police cars were circling closer, engines purring like predators. Emma had seconds to decide. Stay silent and safe, or speak truth to power and risk everything. Her next words would either save 5 lives or destroy her own. The late September air hung thick over Charleston's historic district, carrying the mingled scents of jasmine, salt water, and the low-country cooking that made Vittorio's restaurant famous. The sun had just dipped below the harbor, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, and the gas lamps along Broad Street flickered to life with their gentle yellow glow. Vittorio's sat on a corner that had witnessed 3 centuries of Charleston history. The restaurant's facade was classic Charleston, brick painted a soft cream color, black shutters, a wrought-iron balcony on the 2nd floor draped with flowering vines. 7-year-old Emma Rodriguez pressed herself against the wall beside the service entrance. Her pink backpack clutched to her chest like a shield. Her school uniform, navy jumper and white blouse, was rumpled from a long day, and her dark curls had escaped from their morning braids. But it wasn't exhaustion that made her tremble. It was fear so profound she could taste it, metallic and sharp on her tongue. Through the restaurant's tall windows, she could see them. 5 men seated at the corner table that was always reserved, always waiting. At the head sat Giovanni Vital, a man in his early 60s with silver hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. His suit was charcoal gray, immaculate, and his hands, strong hands that rested calmly on the white tablecloth, wore a single gold ring that caught the candle light. Everyone in Charleston knew the Vitali family. They owned the shipping company that had operated since 1924. They funded hospitals and libraries. Giovanni's grandfather had built half the affordable housing in the district during the Depression. But they also controlled everything that moved through Charleston's port, and there were stories whispered, never proven, about what happened to people who challenged that control. Emma knew their reputation. Her mother, Rosa, had warned her since she could understand words. "Stay away from those men, Mija. They're not what they seem. No matter how much money they give to charity, no matter how polite they are, they're dangerous." But Emma also knew something else. Last winter, when her mother's flower shop had been burglarized and vandalized with racist slurs spray-painted across the windows, it had been someone from the Vital organization who'd sent workers to clean and repair everything overnight. No charge, no explanation, just a simple card. No one should be made to feel unwelcome in their own neighborhood. Her mother had cried when she'd read it. That memory flickered through Emma's mind now as she watched Giovanni laugh at something his nephew said. They looked so normal, so human, sharing bread and wine like any family dinner. It made what she had to do even more terrifying because it meant acknowledging that the monsters in her mother's warnings might actually be more complicated than the stories suggested. Emma's legs felt like water as she finally pushed away from the wall. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to find her mother at the flower shop 2 blocks away, to let someone else handle this. But there was no time. She had heard the detectives talking. She knew what was supposed to happen when those men returned to their cars. The restaurant door was heavy oak and brass, and it took all of Emma's strength to pull it open. The moment she stepped inside, she was enveloped in warmth, the rich smell of garlic and wine, the murmur of conversation, and clinking silverware. The maitre d', a thin man in a tuxedo, looked down at her with surprise and immediate disapproval. "Child, this is not a place for—" "I need to talk to Mr. Vital," Emma interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please, it's important." The maitre d's expression shifted from disapproval to alarm. "Absolutely not. You need to leave before—" "Let her approach." The voice was quiet, but carried absolute authority. Giovanni Vital had turned in his seat, his dark eyes fixed on Emma with an intensity that made her want to disappear. The entire restaurant had gone silent. Even the kitchen seemed to have paused. Emma's mouth went dry. The distance between the entrance and that corner table felt like miles. But she forced her feet to move. One step, then another. While her heart hammered so hard, she thought, "Everyone must be able to hear it. What's your name, little one?" Giovanni asked in a voice that was surprisingly gentle, though his body language remained alert, protective. "Emma Rodriguez. My mama has the flower shop on Church Street." Recognition flickered across the face of one of the younger men, Antonio, Giovanni's nephew. "Rose's daughter." "Yes," Emma whispered. She was close enough now to see the fine fabric of Giovanni's suit, the gold cufflinks at his wrists, the slight scar above his left eyebrow that suggested a violent past carefully hidden beneath cultured manners. "And why does Rose's daughter need to speak with me?" Giovanni leaned back slightly, his hands remaining visible on the table, a gesture Emma somehow understood was meant to make her feel safe. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she forced the words out. "You need to look under your cars, all of you, right now. There's something there, something bad. I saw them putting it there." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Hands that had been relaxed tensed. The younger men started to rise, but Giovanni raised one finger, barely a movement, and everyone froze. "Who did you see, Emma?" "The police," she whispered, and then louder, desperately. "Detective Hall and his partner. They were in the alley behind my mama's shop. They had packages wrapped in plastic. They said—" Her voice cracked. "They said the Vitales were poison in this city and it was time to cut out the cancer." Before Giovanni could respond, the sound of car doors slamming echoed from outside. Through the windows, Emma could see unmarked vehicles pulling up, men in suits and tactical vests emerging, their attention fixed on the row of luxury cars parked along the curb. And at the front, his badge glinting in the gaslight, was Detective Marcus Hall, a man the city celebrated as incorruptible, a hero in the war against organized crime. Giovanni's eyes met Emma's, and in that moment she saw him truly understand. His expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. "How old are you, child?" 7. 7 years old," he repeated softly, more to himself than to her. Then, louder, addressing his companions. "Gentlemen, it seems we have an unexpected situation. We're going to step outside together. All of us, including this young lady, who I believe has just saved us from a very serious misunderstanding." Detective Hall pushed through the restaurant door with the confidence of a man who believed he was about to make history. He was in his mid-40s, fit with the kind of square-jawed good looks that made him popular on local news. His service weapon was holstered but visible, and his expression carried grim satisfaction. "Giovanni Vital," he announced, his voice carrying through the silent restaurant. "I have warrants to search your vehicles based on credible intelligence regarding narcotics trafficking. You and your associates will remain inside while we execute these warrants." "Actually," Giovanni said, standing slowly, adjusting his cufflinks with deliberate care, "I think we'll all go outside together in front of witnesses because this young lady just brought something very interesting to my attention." The crowd gathered outside, phones out, recording every moment. Giovanni knelt slowly, making sure everyone could see, and looked underneath. His expression went very still. "Antonio, bring a phone with light." Everyone should see this. Antonio moved quickly, his smartphone's flashlight illuminating the undercarriage. What the camera revealed made several onlookers gasp. There, secured with professional zip ties, were 3 packages wrapped in plastic. But it wasn't just the packages. It was the evidence tape visible through the clear wrapping marked with Charleston PD case numbers. And next to them, a GPS tracker, its LED blinking red in the shadows. Those are evidence bags. Someone in the growing crowd whispered. Those are official Charleston PD evidence bags. Detective Hall's face had gone from confident to ashen. Someone must have stolen them. This is clearly a framed job to make the department look like what exactly? Giovanni had stood and now he moved methodically down the line of cars, checking each one with Antonio documenting everything. Like they're corrupt, like they'd plant evidence on law-abiding citizens. Because that's exactly what this looks like, Detective. And those evidence bag numbers, they can be traced. They have chain of custody records, signatures, timestamps. A younger officer, barely 25, had gone pale. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands. Sir, I think we need to call internal affairs right now. You'll do no such thing. Hall snapped, but his authority was crumbling like sand. I am the senior detective and I'm ordering you to what? Giovanni interrupted, his voice quiet but lethal. To help you cover up a false arrest, to be complicit in framing innocent citizens, because that's what we are, Detective. Innocent. My family has operated in this city for 95 years. We pay taxes. We employ 600 people. My nephew Antonio coaches Little League every summer. My brother Marcos sits on the board of 3 charities. He took a step toward Hall, and despite being 3 inches shorter, somehow Giovanni seemed to tower over the detective. We have a reputation that makes people uncomfortable. We come from a culture that values loyalty and family above all else. So instead of getting to know us, instead of honoring your oath to protect all citizens equally, you decided we were too different, too suspicious, too outside your narrow definition of acceptable. You decided to destroy us rather than live alongside us. A woman pushed forward from the crowd. Mrs. Patterson, who owned the bookstore on King Street. I've known the Vitales for 30 years. They donated $50,000 to rebuild our library after the flood. They're at every charity event, every community meeting. This is disgraceful. Other voices joined hers. The owner of the hardware store. Vital Shipping gave my son his first job when no one else would hire him after his conviction. Gave him a second chance. The pastor from the AME church. Giovanni's family funded our youth center, anonymous donation, but everyone knew it was them. The tide was turning. The crowd that had gathered, expecting to witness the takedown of organized crime, was instead forming a protective semicircle around the 5 men in suits. Phones recorded from every angle. The truth was being documented in real time. Detective Hall's hand moved toward his weapon, a desperate, cornered gesture, but the young officer stepped between them. Don't, sir. Please don't make this worse. She lunged forward from the crowd. The sound of sirens cut through the tension. FBI vehicles were approaching, called by someone in the crowd whose voice of reason had cut through the chaos. What followed was 3 hours of statements, evidence collection, and the methodical dismantling of what turned out to be a 5-year conspiracy. The FBI's investigation would eventually reveal that Detective Hall had been planting evidence on undesirables for years. Not just the Vitales, but immigrants, minorities, anyone who didn't fit his vision of Charleston's proper society. The evidence bags contained drugs Hall had stolen from the department's confiscated property room. The GPS trackers were purchased with department funds. He documented everything in encrypted files, outlining his plan to clean up the city one frame job at a time. Emma sat on the restaurant's front steps with her mother, who had arrived running and terrified, pulled from her flower shop by a neighbor's frantic call. Rosa held her daughter so tightly Emma could barely breathe, whispering prayers of thanks and terror in rapid Spanish. Giovanni approached them carefully, respectfully, as though understanding that Rosa's fear of him was real and not entirely unjustified. Mrs. Rodriguez, he said quietly, Your daughter showed extraordinary courage tonight. Rose's eyes were red but fierce. She's 7 years old. She should never have had to be brave like this. You're absolutely right, Giovanni agreed. But she was. And because of her, 5 innocent men won't go to prison. And because of her, the FBI is now investigating dozens of other cases. People who are currently in prison might get new trials. Your daughter didn't just save us. She exposed something rotten in this city's justice system. He crouched to Emma's height, his weathered face softening. You were very brave today, Piccolina. Brave and foolish. In my world, saving someone's life creates a debt. Not money, he added, noticing Rosa tense. But protection. If you ever need anything, you call this number. He handed her a simple card. You're under our protection now, both of you. Emma studied him with eyes older than 7. Are you really bad men? People say you are. Giovanni gave a sad smile. We're men who value family and loyalty. We've made mistakes, lived in gray areas because survival isn't always clean. But we love this city. We take care of our people. The truth is rarely as simple as rumors. If you believe in trusting your instincts, and in speaking up when something feels wrong, take a moment, like, comment, and subscribe to Bike Diaries. Tell us where you're watching from. This story proves heroes come in all sizes. When the FBI cleared the scene and the crowd thinned, Emma watched Giovanni leave in a borrowed car. She thought about how scared she'd been, how easily she could have stayed silent. Mama, she whispered. Did I do the right thing? Rosa watched the tail lights fade. You told the truth when silence was safer. Yes, Mija. You did the right thing. I just hope you never have to be that brave again. 3 months later, Emma stood outside the federal courthouse. Detective Marcus Hall was sentenced to 15 years. 12 cases tied to him had already been overturned. Emma wasn't there for him. She was there because the first freed victim, James Chin, wanted to thank her. She watched him hug his mother and hold his infant son for the first time. Giovanni stood quietly beside Emma and Rosa. The Vitali family had kept their promise. A pro bono lawyer saved Rosa's shop. An anonymous donation revived Emma's school art program. Protection, Emma realized, comes in many forms. As they walked through the historic district, she finally asked, Mr. Vital, what happens now? Will people still be scared of you? Some will, he admitted. Fear is easy. Understanding is harder. But your courage changed something. It gave this city a chance to see us more clearly. That's all anyone can hope for. He paused at the corner, and it reminded my family that the best way to fight prejudice is to live with integrity and let our actions speak louder than our reputations. Emma held her mother's hand, feeling the small silver magnolia charm he'd given her. Will I see you again? I imagine so, he said, eyes twinkling. And your mother makes the best flower arrangements in the district. My wife insists on them. As they walked home through streets that somehow felt safer, Emma thought about courage, fear, and the choice she'd made not to look away. Because of that decision, lives had changed, truths had surfaced, and a city had been forced to reconsider its assumptions. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to Bike Diaries. Courage isn't measured by age, and sometimes the quietest voices carry the loudest truths. Tell us in the comments, have you ever noticed something others missed? The magnolia charm glinted in the lamplight, and Emma smiled. She was still just a 7-year-old who loved drawing and her cat, but she was also proof that even a small voice spoken with courage can reshape a community. Thank you for watching. Share this story if it reminded you to trust your instincts and speak up when something feels wrong. And tell us, what would you have done in Emma's